to The Art of Intelligence, where we decode the future of AI one story, one use case, and one bold idea at a time. I'm your host, Barlas UJ, inviting you to join me and industry leaders as we explore how artificial intelligence is reshaping our world, from the boardroom to the classroom and beyond. Whether you're an innovator, a skeptic, or just AI curious, this is your front row seat to the real conversations and practical insights behind the buzzwords. Let's paint a bigger picture together. Hello. Today we have a phenomenal speaker. His name is Mr. Trés Vance. Welcome, Tré, to the show. Tré is a veteran IT consultant and tech leader with a remarkable background at industry giants like AWS and Red Hat. Tré has held roles ranging from senior solutions architect at Amazon Web Services to executive leadership and consulting positions at CloudSmart, Red Hat, and several cloud-focused startups. With deep expertise in cloud adoption, enterprise transformation, and helping organizations harness the power of AI and cloud platform, Tré brings unique perspective as both a practitioner and strategist. Now, we're excited to dive into the insights on cloud evolution, AI trends, and innovation into enterprise technology. Ooh, that's a mouthful. Tré,
It is.
welcome.
Barlas, thank you for having me here. So it's good to be here, and that sounds good. I like that person.
Yeah, me too. We've been friends for a minute now. We were both at AWS, and then we both kind of fell into the partner world. Before we get started, I want to ask you the same question we ask all our guests. If you could have any job on the planet for 12 months to make things good for the world and good for yourself, what would that job be?
Wow, that is a very interesting question. Besides the cop out answer of what I do now, I would have to say that I would like to be an astronaut, right? So
Ooh.
um, just to understand like the greater space and the greater perspective of the world.
Tell me more about that. So, if I wanted to spend the time being an astronaut, since it takes so long to become one, would it be just to go to outer space and kind of see the world and see how things work in space? Or me, it would be like, I want to go to Mars. I want to go check it out. I want to
Yeah.
hang out. What is the draw to being an astronaut?
Well, I think there's a lot of important things that we learn from space. A lot of the industry that we're in right now came from aspirations in space. Part of the reason that I'm in technology, even, is my uh, fandom of a sci-fi show, right? So I think for all those reasons, like culminating in space would be very interesting.
When you say sci-fi show, are you a Trekkie or are you a Star Wars fan or
Uh,
Battlestar
well,
Galactica?
So, man, you just hit all of the majors, right? So, definitely a Trekkie. Have been since the very, very early stages. Appreciate Star Wars and Battlestar, especially that reimagining was amazing, right? Which for a lot of Star Trek writers. So, I would say
Oh, I didn't
yes,
know
I'm a
that.
fan of all the above, but really, sitting there watching next gen stuff like that really inspired me to get into technology and kind of going back to space and this desire to be an astronaut. A lot of that comes from like, well, what would that contribution look like if I did it? So it's really interesting. I guess the next best thing that I have right now is working with LLMs and AI. Right, that's my contribution.
Hey, and that's important stuff. I mean, if we're going to go anywhere with space, we're going to need a computer that can handle those thousands and thousands, if not millions, of calculations at a time to be able to fix and make trajectories and imagine the future. And of course, I'm really hoping for the holodeck to become something pretty soon. If that's possible, I'm all in. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of this. Can you tell me a little bit more about yourself? We just heard about how space has kind of helped you get an interest in technology, but can you go back and get us, what'd you do? What got you into technology, school, you know, First tech
I
job?
like a challenge, and the biggest challenge is basically the unknown. So the things that I thought that I was good at, every few years I like to just mix that up. And so that's kind of what happened. I thought before going to college, I was like, oh, I'm going to be a mechanical engineer. And there were a series of just kind of changes that were like, no, challenge your thinking. This computer thing seemed new way back then. And so I said, hey, I don't know anything about this. Let's dive in. And so that's what I did. And then I went through, all the struggle of becoming proficient at something. You go through the depths of despair of, the imposter syndrome and all of this to truly having an expertise. And then things keep changing. They keep iterating. I went from way back then, not knowing anything about technology to knowing some things about development and software, to then getting into specific technologies like the way back when email was new and everyone used to manage their own email. Then email became more of like a corporate function, then it became a cloud service. Same thing with storage, same thing with virtual machines. Now the same thing with AI. So it's always about just being uncomfortable, becoming comfortable, and then allowing the change to happen so that you're uncomfortable again.
Very nice. And did you do the management information systems? Were you in MIS back in the day?
No, actually, I have a BS in computer science, so
Oh,
I went
sweet.
the other route, and I didn't know what I didn't know, but at the time I was like, oh, well, this is what you need for software. It's like maybe to build software, to develop software.
Hey, it's a good background to have, though, to understand all of that.
Yeah, it doesn't suck.
Yeah.
So,
Well, fantastic. And what got you into AWS specifically? I know AWS is hiring practices. We've both been through the loop. We both sat there and have done that. But it takes a leap to get to want to be in AWS. And not everyone can do it, right? Not to toot our own horns, but they have to interview 250 people for one job. So, and you have to be better than 50% of your team in testing and thought process to get that job as well. What made you go through that long process?
So I worked at a pharma company. So anyone who wants to research this, they made OxyContin of all things.
Ooh,
So I wanted to get out of there first, but second, I had some experience with AWS years before the cloud really became mainstream. So you're now talking like 2008, 2009, where I thought, okay, this other company that has since been bought by Broadcom, that they were going to be the dominant force in cloud as cloud emerged. That wasn't quite right. And so years later, it was one of these things of like, I want to join AWS to know what this peculiar organization and culture was all about. And I had a pretty strong technical background, right? So I had been the NetApp Innovator of the Year back in 2008.
wow.
I won a bunch of awards for green technology because at one time I was the IT manager for Burt's Bees, lip balm company. And they had a similar ethos, right? The earth friendly, natural personal care products. And the vibe from AWS was kind of in alignment where, they were bringing people into the cloud at the time. So I wanted to do it. And, was fortunate enough to get an interview and was also fortunate enough to start working there and learn way more than I ever expected. And that has followed me since. But it's a really interesting process. But really wanted to be on the vanguard of the cloud.
Yeah, and that would do it, right? Because AWS has been on the vanguard of the cloud, and there's so many things that are being announced from, the AI partner products, the changes to the data centers so that they're retrofitting the ability to water cool their chips. Like there's so many different things that AWS is putting out right now, and it has its haters, it has its detractors, but it is still the largest and most used cloud still today. And it's, I think, a
Absolutely.
great university to be a part of, a great bunch of Amazonians, if you will, that kind of all came together, and we really love working at AWS. Since then, you've had a couple of different positions that have helped you in helping to create the strategicness. Is that a word?
That's a word. We're
Strategery?
going with it. We're going
Yeah,
with it.
yeah, the strategery of cloud. So I have a couple of questions I'd love to jump in on if you're okay
Let's
with
do it.
that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, as a senior solutions architect at AWS, what are some of the transformation stories that you're most proud of while you were there?
Yeah, so we created an APN program called, at the time, called Authority to Operate on AWS. So I was a
Hmm.
senior solutions architect in the worldwide public sector business. And so that program was partner driven, and partners were able to help other companies, whether they're ISVs, consulting partners, managed service partners, to create something with the different requirements. At the time, FedRAMP was one of the big ones, but being able to go through the FedRAMP process with partner tools to be able to do that built on AWS and be able to take a lot of the confusion out of it, make it a curated experience, was one of the things that we were able to do. And I remember we were down in Florida actually, um, going through cloud formation templates and infrastructure as code and trying to find the ways to put together different products of different categories to solve and treat some of the control statements for customers. So that was one of the big things. And that actually led to how I became the public sector um, solutions architect of the year. So fast forward to 2018, that was one of the things that I was able to do. So that was a really interesting experience to be able to build a APN program from scratch to get some notoriety, if you will, through that selection, and then continue this like learning of AWS and cloud and iterating that way. It was a lot of fun.
Fantastic. You know, it's interesting that you say that an APN tool to help folks get more into FedRAMP, and I'm assuming GovCloud. Um, you know, even today, I get phone calls from CIOs that are like not every day, but maybe once a week. Like, hey, you know anybody that can help us get into this GovCloud and FedRAMP thing? So it's still a need even today. If anyone's listening that wants to create an AI enabled outside of AWS, get on GovCloud partner program, it's definitely a huge need in out in the world, because I know I get asked about it. I'm sure you do every once in a while as well.
Yeah, and I've had the experience in more than one place now, like inside of AWS, building out a program that could help bring partners in, but also just the experience with working with what was the FedRAMP project management office and GSA and getting good perspective. Like it's good, and those compliance programs are really important, right? Because you have so many of them in the U.S. We have FedRAMP, and we've got DoD IL 2456. In Germany, you have something called C5. You have compliance programs all over the world, and a lot of them share controls. And it's a really interesting process to understand how to walk between them, and then how they manage all of that. So that's a world in and of itself, and I
Yeah.
think AI could probably help with that too. Um, but yeah, that's been a journey, like just going through that whole process.
Having said that, I'm glad you brought that up. This isn't one of my questions that I had pre-prepared, but when you're talking about compliance and you're talking about AI, we were just had another guest on about AI transportation, where they got a truck to drive from Houston, Texas to San Antonio, Texas, with no overwatch, no follow cars, not a person inside the car, and it was able to drive without any incidents whatsoever from beginning to end and get to San Antonio. So it was a great use case. But the problem is that legislation hasn't caught up with AI yet. So, when talking about compliance and AI, what are your thoughts on the current state of legislation in Washington or EU or even China when it comes to AI? And I know this, that's not you're not a legislation expert,
Right.
but what are your thoughts on that? I'd
Well,
just like to know.
actually, no, just kidding. Uh,
Well, actually, I've got a master's
that's right.
degree in
I
AI
didn't tell you this,
legislation that I just
but
did over the weekend. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. I'm not an expert, but I stayed at a Holiday Inn.
Yeah.
Um, so what's interesting is there are things that are coming out, right? There's an executive order on AI. It's one of the things that companies are now diving into to understand what that potential legislation would look like. What does the executive order mean? There's something in the news about that every day as companies get to 4, 5, 6 trillion dollars in their market cap and they provide their chips potentially all over the world. There are things like that that we all have to just be mindful of. It's like, who's the AI for? Am I going to be an AI producer? Do I need to have billions of dollars and tons of chips to create these next frontier models, these new large language models? Can I leverage what someone else has already built and say, I'm just going to diffuse this and I'm going to distill this to what I need for my specific data set for my use case, or am I just going to consume, an agentic IDE? Am I going to pay a subscription for 225 or whatever the dollar amount is and do something very quick? Like, I think a lot of people need to figure out with AI, like, what's in it for me, not what is the next thing that Nvidia or AWS or whomever is building. Because like that can matter, but it also doesn't matter if you don't know how to use it. So we don't want to be part of that 90% of AI projects that fail. We want to be part of the 10% that work. And part of that is knowing like what would I get out of it? Do I want to go and look at my semi-useful website, have AI mock something up really quick and make it more useful? Okay, well, that took 5 minutes of my time, but it has a bigger impact than I'm going to create the next large language model. That's not for me. Like, there's a story about the airline industry, right? Like the joke is always like, if you want to get into the airline industry, you're making millionaires out of billionaires, right? Like that's not the AI business that I want to be in. I want to be in the one that you make millionaires where you didn't have them before, right? So that's where I want to be.
No, that's great. I mean, what you just said was perfect and brings up a couple questions like or statements. I do agree. Either you're an AI user or you're an AI producer. And I would much rather be an AI user than a producer. And it brings to mind the story that I just read 2 days ago. You might have seen, I don't know whose it was. So if it's yours, let me know and I'll put you on the comments. But I read that this person or this CEO was like, all right, look, we need to spend $2 million on building our own LLM and making it happen so we can own every piece of the process. We don't want anyone else to have access to it. And so they're spending $2 to $30 million on building an LLM and getting it all created for themselves for their own company. And the article had said that companies that have a $5,000 a month on AI subscriptions are eating their lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Like today, you don't need to have, it's like the same thing with servers and data. You don't have to own the data center. You don't have to own the servers and update them and take on all those costs if all you need is this much of a server. Um, and it's heading that way. AI as a business is already underway, but I'd much rather, like I said, I'd much rather be an AI user than a producer. Um, and so everything that you're saying really, really holds true.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, look at it this way. Like, hypothetically, if one were to start a business today, it's different than 10 years ago. It's different than 30 years ago. It's certainly different than like 50 years ago. So
Mm-hmm.
50 years ago, when you started a business, you were concerned with lawyers and paper and how many pencils and paper clips and staples that you had. Maybe 30 years ago, it was less about that. I know that I personally have a lifetime supply of paper clips
Mm-hmm.
and staples because you just don't use that stuff in business. How many years ago? What, 15, 16 years ago, with AWS becoming more mainstream, you could rent a server. Okay, well, now I don't have to go and buy a server from any of our favorite hardware companies. I don't have to go to our favorite networking companies and buy a firewall, and I don't have to do that big capital outlay. Now, even with AI, like, I don't even have to really pick a side on this whole cloud thing. I can say, well, I'm using, my favorite frontier model, and I've got a subscription to a certain, any tool, like the Kiro tool that AWS came out with, Claude Code, uh, you know, OpenAI's ChatGPT Pro. Like, that's the AI is the new cloud. It's the thing that's going to make it easier for you to start a business. So from a standing start with AI now, like, I can do some things that I couldn't do with cloud just 5 years ago. I can have something else truly read the manual. So read the manual, give me the best practices for your cloud, and then build the architecture that way. Like, how much faster is that than what I had to do as a solutions architect, which is to actually learn that stuff, figure it out, and then deploy it. But now I can read, I can read all of GitHub and say, okay, well, there's a GitHub MCP that can show me all the best practices from all the best companies, and this is the way to get started. Being an AI user now is what's really going to accelerate a lot of these companies. And then as far
Absolutely.
as like your story about the, spending money to develop your own large language model, okay, that's prohibitively expensive for most people. Small language model, maybe, but you would need to have something that's like domain specific for your use case. So if I'm in medicine and I want to understand, weight loss, there might be something that's distilled for that level, and then I can go forward. But maybe I can create meal plans as a service, right? Like, what are the contents of my fridge? What kinds of things can they make? What are the macros that I want to have? And then boom, here's a 7 day, here's a 30 day, here's a 1 year meal plan. And maybe the business there is to, create a subscription model around that. Like, find out the contents of people's fridges and come up with recipes. Like, people have been trying to do that with AI for years.
Idea. Yeah. So someone
Yeah.
do that.
So I just put this idea out for people. So anybody who makes this business off of the Art of Intelligence podcast, there's two people that want to have a conversation with you.
Fantastic. I love my job, and and this company is actually founded on AI. So the media company that this does, it's all done from the questions that we ask, the editing, the creating of the advertising, the video that goes on the beginning of every podcast. And I don't know if you know, we do articles every single day in this media, and every day it's just something that we find that is um, interesting, right? Like the one that came out today, and it's not just me. There's other people that are putting these things together. But it's interesting. Today was about hallucinations and the top four hallucinations by Vertical, and how healthcare hallucinations are between 8 and 20% in diagnosis, and can cause patients to have a 13% of surgeries based off of those recommendations are not needed. But AI has created hallucinations of doctors writing things and saying this is what it is, just so it can get to a diagnosis saying, oh, yes, the doctor diagnosed this with this symptom and this symptom. And so the other doctors go, oh, I didn't know it had that symptom. Let's green light this surgery. So 13% of AI based surgeries are hallucinations. And, that's very interesting to me. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that, but as you say that, that makes me think. I'm like, okay, well, I've met some interesting doctors too, so I wonder, I wonder if that percentage is higher or lower than the base. So,
I don't know. But the thing is, it's we're blindly trusting AI is I think
yeah,
the main thing of that article, and it's tied into Fight Club with the Fight Club hallucination with Norton and Pitts. So um,
yeah, you
and
got to
so
have
all of
human in
this
the
is
loop.
done. What's that?
Yeah, you got to have human in the loop. I think it's
You have
critically
to.
important that either, some like there's this thing with AI now where people are like, oh, well, I'm going to get rid of thousands of my employees. It's like you could do that. Probably not the smartest move, right? You want to have human in the loop because that AI, the intent, I believe the intent is to make people more efficient at what they do,
Right.
not to replace them. And so I could see a small team having the efficiency of a larger team, but I don't see replacing a team with AI.
Absolutely. And my thought on it is if you've got 1,000 people, or let's say 10,000 people based off of our one of our favorite large companies, if you have 10,000 people and instead of laying them off, give them the AI tools to make them as effective as possible. So you're making more money off of just keeping that 10,000. Now that 10,000 is like you've got 100,000 people working because each one
Absolutely.
has the ability to do so much with AI. It's like that meme of that guy that's going, I hope my boss doesn't find out that I'm using AI to work 5 jobs right now and I'm making $47,000 a month. Well, imagine if all 10,000 of your employees were enabled like that to use AI. And now, instead of you got rid of 10,000 people so that you could have 100 people do the same job and you keep the same level of output with reducing the price down. Instead of doing that, let's triple the output and use the same what we have. So instead of going backwards, we're actually just blowing up forwards. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean,
Maybe I'm just an optimist.
yeah, I think part of it is with the very large companies is get the law of large numbers. But for entrepreneurs and for smaller companies, this is the way that we can actually compete. So AI can put us on to a more level playing field. This is what cloud did 15 years ago. It allowed companies to compete with very established organizations because they're able to use this new innovation, right? So the ones who moved on to cloud faster removed their undifferentiated heavy lifting, and they were able to find agility doing the stuff they were supposed to do and increase their feature sets and made them more attractive to investors and customers. The same thing is happening now in AI, like how you incorporate AI as a user to make things that you're doing more efficient, to be able to drive to a different outcome. It allows you to compete in an arena that you weren't in before.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And, even, and, I hate to keep bringing it back to the art of intelligence, but that's just what I'm doing right now. Even with this, it's allowing me to really push things across different spectrums. That's why we're on Apple, we're on Spotify, we're on YouTube, we have the following on LinkedIn. We're hitting on all mediums, and
Yeah.
it wouldn't be possible for us to put out 20 articles a month and 4 podcasts a month without being able to do something with AI. I don't. It's not possible.
Yeah. I mean, think about the need for the lack of need for a studio, the lack, some of the equipment, all these things that people had to invest in before. You just don't
Well,
have
I
to do
still
those
have the
things.
equipment. If you saw me right now, you'd be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
mixing board. Oh, yeah. Oh, microphone."
Yeah.
It's
But you don't have to go build WKRP.
the
You have
fact that
a
you just even said that is telling me, close to how old you really are, even though your face is still youthful like an 18-year-old's.
That's right. Yeah, that I drop a couple of gems in there every now and then, but yeah, like you don't have to build the studio, you don't have to own the station and go like things are more available. So
True.
that creates new opportunity, like you were saying, and that's what AI is all about, is creating these new opportunities for us as the users. And I'm very glad that we have these big producers of AI. You've got your Anthropics and OpenAIs and perplexity and all of that. But at the end of the day, I love what I can do with that.
It's interesting you said that too, because yesterday I jumped into a comment stream of a young lady who's a photographer finder, booker, if you will, for photo shoots for high-end modeling gigs. And she was complaining about AI and how AI has been taking over a lot of the jobs that her photographers have, and how it's not the same thing, and how it doesn't feel right, and how AI doesn't get it right. And I wrote underneath it, I said, "Look, my friend, you're right. It might not get it right yet, but that's only because you're feeding it information that isn't quite right. Like you're not going to get that natural look of something until your particular AI is learned what every body type looks like in a particular type of fabric, a particular type of size, a particular type of garment. And once you have that learned once, it'll be able to do thousands of shoots a second as opposed to booking, getting all the equipment, getting the photographer there. Photographer then goes in and edits it and then brings it back, and all this, and it's making things a lot easier. And even the photographers were below the comments saying, "Look, I hear what you're saying, but AI can do 10 times better than I can." And back in the day when I used to have physical film that I popped into a camera and then edited it, um,
Yep.
computer editing software blew that out of the water. And now AI is blowing us out of the water. And if we don't keep up with the creative process, we're going to be retired. And it's like that along the way. Either you got to keep up, you got to stay knowledgeable on what the latest trends are, or you're going to go by the way of the steamship, right? The
Yep. Or
steamship
the one
captain
hour
had to
photo. Do
learn
you
how to
remember
use a
that?
regular boat, or he was gone.
Yeah. Do you remember the 1 hour photo booth? Since we're talking about
Yeah.
age here, like you would go and drop off film that was in like the dark canister to those places, and then you come back. Like that actually was an innovation versus the dark room, right? An instant photo. So yeah, you're right. There's a continual iteration of these things. Like first we were able to have the giant flash bulb and all of that. Then you have instant cameras, disposable cameras, digital cameras, to editing to AI generated content. Yeah, it's really about embracing that stuff instead of, trying to chafe against, because you're going to miss the opportunity in that.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not this good looking naturally. This is completely AI enhanced, right? So,
Okay, all right.
yeah. So, I mean,
I
I'm
am
really an
this good
ugly guy.
looking
Oh,
naturally. Um, but I'm sure once you put AI on it, it's gonna look fantastic.
that's true. So, we're coming up on, usually I like to keep these things at 45 minutes so that we can have these as bite-sized as possible so people can listen to them while they're running or in traffic or in between meetings. I've got one last question, and then after that, I would like to go into a unique AI use case that you've seen in the world. Let's ask you, what advice do you have for tech leaders that are looking to future-proof their AI teams, or their IT teams, as AI and automation accelerates and change?
Yeah, I think it's the timeless thing. You have to keep experimenting. Um, Take this from the perspective of, what is it that I'm trying to achieve? How can I experiment with AI to make this stuff happen? And then, those outcomes. So when I think about this, I think about, are there operational efficiencies that can be gained with AI? Is there something like very quick and tangible that I can get out of it? Let's run a hackathon. Let's run, a build contest. Keep it fun. Give out some gift cards internally to your development teams, or, create these cross-use teams that might have line of business along with engineering, and see if you can come up with something. Like those happy accidents in AI are the things that are going to be the most important. So I would just say keep experimenting.
Love it. And shout out to Bruno. that you introduced me to. Great guy. Love him.
Absolutely.
He's fantastic. So
That's
Bruno,
the
if you're
Bruno we can
listening,
talk about.
yeah, that's the Bruno. I actually sent him that yesterday or 2 days ago. We don't talk about Bruno. No, no. Yeah, I sent that to him. He thought it was funny. Um, So we come down to the portion of the day or the podcast where you tell us a unique AI use case. Now, let me preface this in this AI use case can be something that you have personally seen a company do, something that you have done, or something that you're currently seeing out there in the world being developed, or a future idea like the one you gave us earlier about meal plan creation. But whether it's for good or for bad, it just if you can give us one of those and the industry that it would help or not.
Yeah, so I would say this. There's a lot of churn around cloud marketplaces. Like one of the best uses of AI is just to know, what the renewal and software purchasing lifecycle looks like, right? And AI could be an excellent use case there. Undoubtedly, there are others working in this space, but I'm definitely working in that space. So, how would you like to have procurement that is based on your existing rule sets? And I'll auto buy. So go ahead and auto buy that solution from wherever you'd like. And if it's within your rule sets and your governance, go ahead and
Wow.
accept.
Wow. That's amazing. That would speed things up so much. Like if the company can do this in this amount of time with their product and the outcome is this and the outcome looks like this and this for the rule set, the price is below $5,000 a month and is on AWS cloud. Like
That's
once you
right.
get all of these, then automatically buy it and then automatically get the number one company that has more than 50 implementations to put it together as long as it's less than $25,000.
Yeah.
Like
The automation of
beautiful.
the sell side and buy side procurement through agentic agents. So stay tuned.
What a gorgeous idea. I absolutely love it. And it'll put every salesperson out of a job. But that's perfectly okay. They'll just have to find a new way of using AI to make money. So we coming to the end portion of this. Can you tell me what's next for you, Trey? Is there any, I know you do the consulting, but is there any companies that you would like to shout out to or say that we should look out for?
Oh, there are so many great companies. I think our good friend Bruno would be a great one to bring on next. So if I'm nominating someone next, I'm going to
I'd love
definitely
to.
nominate him. I think there's a lot of good stuff that they have going on. It's all based, built on an open source, platform.
And you want to tell
A
us the
lot of
name of the
exciting
company?
things. Yeah,
You want to tell us the name of the company?
yeah. So that's Rocket Chat. So I'm calling in. So Bruno, if you're
Bruno,
listening,
you are
you're
challenged.
next.
Yeah,
That's right.
fantastic. Yeah, thanks for joining us today's inspiring conversation with Trey Vance. Don't forget to like and subscribe on LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify to stay up to date with the Art of Intelligence podcast and get more insights from leaders at the forefront in AI and cloud innovation. And a new thing that we're adding this week is a weekly email. Once you subscribe, every Monday morning you're going to receive a weekly email based off of the industry you choose, which is healthcare, manufacturing, supply chain, oil and gas, or technology. And every week we will send a breakdown of a phenomenal AI use case sent directly into your inbox. So don't forget to look for that, subscribe, and get it done. All right. Thank you, Trey, so much. We love having you here, and we will see you next time.
All right.
Unlock the art of AI by joining us on your favorite podcast platform every Tuesday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.